Hello, friends. This is Yamana Mitchell, known as Coach Yamz on the internet, and I am the owner of Healing is Work Coaching. And if you want to know more about that, Coach Yamz, YAMZ.com is how you find out more about me. But why I am here today with this podcast episode is I wanted to do a recap of my experience at the Afro Mermaid Summit in Homestead, Florida, right outside of Miami. This was the fourth year that this event was held. And I had such a great time. I just wanted to take a moment to actually sit down and podcast through the experience so that if it's something that may interest somebody else, then it can be a bit of guidance and a resource. So if you're wondering what an Afro Mermaid Summit is, the best way I can describe it is if you've heard of Comic-Con or some kind of an event space where people get together and they dress up and, they get in character. It's a whole to-do. That is Afro Mermaid Summit. For Black and Brown people, you don't have to be Black or Brown, but it's for Black and Brown people to be able to come together and put on mermaid tails or mer people tails. Um, and just be able to frolic in water and gather together with their shared love of mermaiding. Um, or at least that was my takeaway. And if this is your first time hearing about mermaids or anything like that, how this came onto my radar was I watched a docuseries in 2023 on Netflix called Mer People. And in the third episode, I watched, the different people in the docuseries go through their experiences and what they've learned and like how they show up in the mermaiding community. Because some people dive professionally, some people do this just as a hobby, and there's a wide range of everything in between, right? So I watched a docuseries. I heard about Afro Mermaid Summit. It was in like 3 weeks from the date that I had watched it in 2023. And I was like, well, it would be crazy to like try to make this happen like within a month, right? So I told myself that I would tap into the resources so that I could make the trip in 2024. And that is what I did. I plugged into the Instagram page, afromermaid.co, I believe is what the page that I follow right now is, the handle is on Instagram. But tapped into that page along with several of the other people who were actually in the docuseries. And then from there, the algorithm does a thing and it starts recommending people to you. But yeah, so I tapped in that way, told myself I was going to go do a thing. And when tickets went on sale, bought a ticket, didn't know if anybody else was going to go with me, didn't care, just knew that I had to be there. So got down to the event day one. I made it to the tail end of the event. And so that looked like people were in the pool. There was a swim class, I believe, going on. So I did listen in on what was happening, but I did not go out with my swimsuit on because I knew things were about to wrap up and karaoke was going to be starting shortly. So went out there, took in some tips, just sitting on the pool, on the side of the pool. The fun thing about this is the first mer person that swam up to me actually lives like 30 minutes up the street because I'm in Nashville and she's in Murfreesboro. And so I was like, you are kidding me. You cannot be the first person that is talking to me out here. And we are practically neighbors. So I thought that was really cool. But just from like that moment and all the rest of the time, it was a great trip. Something else that was cool about day one, even though I didn't get to participate a whole lot, seeing Black and brown people in mermaid tails. And this is the first time, by the way, I've ever seen anybody even in a mermaid tail in real life. But for them to be Black and brown, it just made my heart sing because we, as Black and brown people, know that representation matters so much. And so seeing people who looked like me doing this thing that has intrigued me, uh, it was cool. And so then that evening, uh, got ready, went to karaoke, and karaoke, whoever wanted to show up and do their karaoke thing had that option. Um, there were different ranges of costume. So I didn't know like how people showed up to the different events because, every event kind of brings its own vibe and energy. And so I didn't know what to wear, but I wore something that I was comfortable in. But we saw some people that were dressed up and had on full makeup, and it's like the glitter and the shimmer and the shine, and just it's a whole look. And then some people who, just dressed down and real comfy and casual. But whoever you were and however you showed up, you were welcome. And there was plenty of singing, and there was plenty of dancing and laughing and hugging and all the things. And so it just continued to very much feel like a place that you could easily feel welcome in and lean into and meet people. And it just, day one was cool. Day two, I did sleep in, so I did not get to catch some of the workshops earlier in the morning. Um, but I did make it to the Intro to Mermaiding swim class, which taught different principles for what it took to be able to do this mermaid thing, right? Because there's a certain way that you swim, and there's certain way that you're supposed to breathe, and you have to be a good swimmer. Like there's things that scientifically must happen for you to be able to do this in a way that it looks good. And so we had an instructor out there, Kelsey, and she was great, and she walked us through all the things. She like talked us through it, and then she had us demonstrate it so that we could feel what it was like to actually go through the motions of these different practices. And the swim class was just very excuse me, the swim class was just very informative. And I really enjoyed myself. And excuse me, hold on. Excuse me. Okay. Class was real informative. And she was very helpful if anybody had any additional questions. So one of the questions that I had after class was over, I told Kelsey, I said, listen, I used to be able to float. And she's like, no, everybody can float. I was like, I hear what you're saying, but I used to be able to float naturally, and I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to work for it. I just showed up, I laid in the pool, and floating happened. And with the release of a of weight over the last year, floating naturally without knowing the scientific how a thing works, it don't work for me no more. So she gave me some pointers, and excuse me, I got a little tickle in my throat, and she was able to help me demonstrate that. And I was able to put all of these things to use the next day. But anyway, got through Intro to Mermaiding, got through the group swim. Everybody was out there. I think there may have been a drone that flew over us and did a thing. But then there was a wet gala that evening. There, after the Intro to Mermaiding swim and the group swim and all the things, there was a wet gala that evening with a blue carpet, which I think is precious. With a blue carpet, and it begins with dinner and what is the word I am searching for? Performances. Dinner and performances. Different people perform. I cannot speak to what that looked like. I did not actually attend the dinner simply because with a myriad of food allergies, it tends to be that when I list my allergies, I show up to dinners and I get dry pieces of chicken and sad, unseasoned vegetables. So I don't do that to myself. But if the dinner might not speak to you, there is, or there was an after party. So that's what I opted for. I opted for the after party where there would be a DJ and there'd be dancing because I'm always down for a dancing good time. So got dressed, got the makeup on, the glitter on, the face jewels, all the things, put on the dress. Thank you, Shein, because your girl was a baddie in this blue metallic dress. Um, and so yeah, went to the wet gala and cut a rug, if you will. Had a good time. We danced. We sweated hard. There was twerking. There was line dancing because everybody loves some bunny hopping and all the things, right? The cha-cha slide, all the things. So it was just a really good time. Um, and if karaoke doesn't bind you, dancing damn sure will. And so night one, we were singing and joining together. Night two, we was in that thing dancing and having a real good time. And that unites people. And I know that because Dance with Yams happens every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. And people love taking a break from their weeks to just come and dance and have a good time. 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Anyway, back to what the point of this recap is for. So that was day two. Day three was going to Secret Gardens, Miami. And Secret Gardens Miami is this place where people get married and they take photo shoots. And it's just this really beautiful natural setting with fish swimming in the water and iguanas walking around and all of the greenery growing around. And then there's like random doors and pianos and picture frames to make it more fun, in addition to it being the natural beauty that it has. And at Secret Garden, I'd opted to do a photo shoot, an underwater photo shoot with water bear photography. So I had scheduled this prior to the event, talked to the photographer, Kimber, in advance to find out what the look underwater could look like for me, since I am brand new to mermaiding and do not have a tail. And so she gave me some ideas, and I figured out my look. And part of my look were these beautiful earrings. You'll see those beautiful earrings. They were made by one of my really good friends and small business owner, Lindsay. Her business is Clay Bay, BAE Designs. And she makes custom items and she sells things in her store. And anytime I leave the house, I have another pair of earrings that she's done for me. Some new moon earrings. Anytime I leave the house, I get at least 5 compliments in those earrings. Like, she's doing the damn thing in the jewelry space. Anyway, back to the recap. So, Secret Gardens had my earrings made so that I would complete the look of the underwater photo shoot. So, got the look together. Two of the things with the underwater photo shoot that did concern me were that I am a person who, even though I love being in the water and have always enjoyed being in the water and swimming and doing all the things, I hold my nose when I go underwater. I never learned the rules of like breathing out while you go under so that you're not swallowing a whole bunch of water. I did not learn this technique. So I've always opted for holding my nose. And I knew that doing an underwater photo shoot, I would not be able to hold my nose. And so the intro to mermaiding class the day before came in handy like I knew it would. But it delivered in a way that I really needed it to. So thank you, swim instructor Kelsey, again. Um, Photo shoot went well. I will make sure to post some of the behind the scenes and then also the finished products that I actually selected. Um, but yeah, the underwater photo shoot was great. The whole experience was cool because I've never done a photo shoot, not in that way. Like, I've gone to JCPenney and taken some family pictures, but not something like this. And how often does one get an opportunity to underwater photo shoot? I don't know. So I'm going to take the opportunity because it was presented to me and it felt like a good fit. And I'm glad that I did it. But after the photo shoot, it's a whole day. I mean, there's a whole day of things because the photo shoots, other people were also having them done. So they're scheduled throughout the day. I got mine done in the morning. And then there was Pilates. And then there was a belly dancing class. There was a group photo shoot, which I did not make because food is always priority. And I was hungry by then. So did not make it into the actual group photo, but got to get some good video and pictures of everybody in their tails sitting on all the different rocks with the waterfalls and just the beautiful nature picturesque scene of all these merfolks on the rocks and things. And the Pilates and belly dancing classes that were hosted were fun. And I've been throwing these random things into my life since I've gotten back to Nashville. Um, yeah. So Secret Gardens, the rest of the day was supposed to be, um, what was it? It was going to be a dance, like Dance Across the Seven Seas, I think is what it was called. But like a dance party, dance off, I'm not real sure. What I am sure of is that it was rainy and the rain persisted into the next day, which ended up canceling all the other events. But it did not put a damper on things, because even though the dance party and the bonfire that evening did not happen, I found out after the fact in the stories that things had been moved to the host hotel so that people could still show up and have a mini version of the thing. And it looks like they still had a blast. My partner and I actually opted to, when we looked at the weather, it was like, okay, well, let's go frolic in Miami since we're not too far away. And so we went and checked out a rooftop, and then we found some delicious tacos, and then we called it a night. Um, but there were options to continue having fun, even though the rain had kind of put a damper on things for that evening on the third day of the summit. And then the final day was supposed to be for a beach cleanup and then a sacred water ceremony. And that, because the weather, made those plans change as well. And so it looked like a mini sacred water ceremony the at the host hotel. And I had gotten in late the night before, so slept in, asked for a late checkout, all that. So was not going to make it to the ceremony because I found out on Instagram on the stories, and I'm like, oh, just waking up. Late checkout is real soon, so I'm not gonna make it to this if it starts at this time. Bleh. So still, got checked out and everything, and then went down. And when we got down there, everybody was hugging and crying and embracing and like positive words to each other. And you could just tell that something beautiful had been said and done, and people had released things and were reminded of who they were, and how much they matter. And so after all the crying, then there was, the hugging, like I said, and then there were dancers that came out, and there was dancing, and there were drums, and it was a beautiful time. It was a beautiful trip. Um, I think the really cool thing is that all of this stemmed from me randomly watching a docuseries and being like, that could be cool. And the other piece of this, because like mermaiding by itself is like, you really just that committed all of a sudden. I've actually wanted to get scuba dive certified for years. And it's just been one of those things where you say that you're going to do a thing and then you keep putting it off because maybe someone else is the focus and the interest in that moment. And I think the pandemic had happened when I was like thinking about being committed. And a lot of life has happened since then. But then I watched the docu series and was like, mermaiding, and I've been wanting to get scuba dive certified. Well, this could just tie a thing all the way together. And so, yeah. Um, the thing I loved about Afro Mermaid Summit is it brought together whoever wanted to come and share space in this environment and have a safe space to do so and be able to be themselves, whatever that meant to them. Does not matter what body you come in, it does not matter any of the things. We are united by whatever it is that brought us together, which is good vibes, energy, and the love of water, and then being able to express that in a fun way. The other thing that I thought was fun is that some of the people, like the organizers, were conscious of making sure that the environment continued to be cared for. So even when we were at spaces, they were walking around cleaning up water bottles to make sure that trash was not being left behind. So in addition to it being a shared community of, wanting to be in the water and appreciate the water and things like that, we also, there's a great respect for the earth and keeping it clean and doing your part. Um, for instance, the beach cleanup that was going to be on the final day of the summit. So it's not just about having fun, it's also about having respect, and it's about community. And community is so important for everybody. And it doesn't matter if it's in mermaiding, it doesn't matter if it's in medieval Renaissance things. Like, swear that whatever random thing that you can find a way to get into something, there's a community for it. Um, so I hope that this has been helpful to somebody. If you're interested in attending the Afro Mermaid Summit, or if you're just interested in knowing more about what a mermaid summit would even look like. I know that there are other events that happen all over the place. There's Mer Magicon that is supposed to be, I think, one of the biggest Mer events. And I want to say that is the tail end of February through the early bit of March. Like, it's a few day event late February. So the goal is to attend that. I have met other people in community in the city. So there's one woman that lives here in Nashville who also has been mermaiding. And so we are working on having like a swim meetup so that just improving skills, expanding skill sets, accountability, all of that can be a part of whatever our independent goals that happen to overlap and we can help each other with. So, yeah, I say all that to say, find your tribe, find your community. It doesn't matter what the common interest is that brought y'all together. And it especially doesn't matter if it's, rooted in love and being better humans, because there's a lot of trash in the world, and being a better you will help bring light to the chaos that surround us. So anyway, I hope that you have gotten something great from this. If you want to hear more about things, because if I'm calling the thing a thing, this is, yes, a recap, but it's also a podcast. And I've not done podcast episodes by myself because I've never thought that I would have enough to talk about for a length of time to justify doing a regular podcast. But if there's anything that you would like to hear me talk about, I don't mind sharing my opinion on things. Like I said in the beginning, my name is Yamana Mitchell. I am the owner of Healing is Work Coaching, and the internet knows me as Coach Yamz with a Z, Yamz. And I'm out here helping people to live life on purpose, unapologetically. And that starts with you living a life that feels true to you. So, I guess I'll tune out now, and I hope to hear from y'all. If you want to connect, Coach Yamz, YAMZ.com, will take you to my virtual dance party, Dance with Yams. It will let you know about any events that I'll have coming up. If you're looking for community to be tapped into, I have a Facebook group if you happen to be one of those people that still uses Facebook. I don't love Facebook, but I do pop in from time to time to stay connected. But I have a Facebook group, Friends with Yams. That way you can get tapped into events in the city that I'm in, Nashville. Or sometimes there are virtual events that I also post because there are virtual things that go on. So, yeah, until next time, take care of yourself.